Welcome to the 700 Club. It's the day after President Trump and President Erdogan talked Turkey. But what we're looking at is a massive, massive whitewash of a dictator. And, you know, that's what's going on. They're whitewashing this guy who is he's being called a good guy, when actually he's a thug. Well, what are they talking about the ceasefire? A totally different tale from reports on the ground. Why didn't the president hold Erdogan's feet to the fire for his atrocities? And what blowback could follow their controversial meeting? Here's Chris Mitchell with an inside look.
While some hope President Trump would deliver hard truths to Turkish President Erdogan, instead, he got high praise.
I'm a big fan of the president, I have to tell you that.
At the White House, President Trump also praised the ceasefire inside northeast Syria.
Today, the ceasefire continues to hold, and I know that the ceasefire, while complicated, is moving forward at a very rapid clip.
Yet on the ground, aid workers told a different story.
Well, there's been constant fighting since the invasion. There's never been a ceasefire, not one day. Airstrikes by drones, regular airstrikes, artillery, mortars, Turkish tanks.
A number of international human rights groups have also cited Turkey for war crimes during its invasion. At the press conference, one reporter asked President Erdogan about the plight of Christians who have suffered during the invasion.
The ones remaining on the side of the Syrian territory will see their worshiping practices restored and revived in a special manner. They're receiving health care, they're receiving humanitarian aid in every aspect possible.
My name is Omar Firaz.
Yet this Christian leader in the Syrian city of Kobani tells a different tale.
Under the pretext of fighting against the Kurds, a lot of churches have been targeted and destroyed, and many Christians were forcibly displaced from their hometowns.
Something is happening in Turkey that I hope President Trump and President Erdogan had a very frank discussion on.
Given the abuses during its ongoing invasion, human and religious rights abuses inside Turkey, and a NATO member buying Russian military equipment, Senator James Lankford questioned the future of the Turkish-U.S. relationship.
We've had an economic relationship, a military relationship, a genuine friendship with Turkey. But we do not know who Turkey is anymore. We don't recognize the Turkey of today from Turkey 5 years ago.
Ladies and gentlemen, I want to say this in the strongest possible terms. The White House is a bully pulpit. What is spoken there has reverberations around the world. And for the President of the United States to look at a thug who's a killer and a stone-cold killer and say he's a, quote, good guy, and, you know, he's not a good guy. He's a thug. Chris Mitchell joins us now for more on the reaction to Erdogan's White House visit. Chris, you just showed what really is happening on the ground. Why would the president say he's a, quote, fan of this dictator?
You know, Pat, that's a question that people here in the region has been asking probably since last December, when the first time that President Trump said he was going to pull out U.S. troops. You know, he has been a thug, as you say. He's a dictator inside his own country. I think one thing people need to understand, Pat, is that what Erdogan talked about yesterday was repatriation. And what does he mean by that? Right now, his Free Syrian Army, these jihadist allies of the Turkish army, are driving people out from their homelands. Some of these are Christians that have been there. These are ancestral lands. They speak the language of Jesus, Aramaic. They're being driven out so that others can come in, mainly probably allies of jihadists. Where you and I come from, they don't call this repatriation, they call this ethnic cleansing. And that's exactly what happened yesterday, Pat. While President Trump was calling Erdogan a great guy, there were people literally fleeing for their lives in a place called Tel Tamir, which is a predominantly Christian village.
Chris, what about the Kurds? Are they really trying to ethnically cleanse those Kurds and destroy them?
Exactly. That's exactly what they're trying to do. This is, you know, a lot of people, when we were there earlier this year, Pat, we heard stories of people that say, my grandparents, my great-grandparents, they came to this land because of the Armenian genocide. almost to a person, the people we talked to said the number one threat they had at the time was a Turkish invasion. That was forestalled till October 9th, but they were predicting then exactly what's happening now, ethnic cleansing. And they saw also in March of 2018, this Syrian Free Army that's allied with the second largest army in NATO, ethnically cleanse people, burn churches, hunt down Christians, and so that's exactly what they feel is happening right now, ethnically cleansing not just the Kurds, but also Christians, Yazidis, Arabs, and other ethnic minorities in this region, and that's what we're seeing today.
Chris, what about ISIS? We understand a number of those ISIS fighters are being released. Are they being given safe haven by the Turks?
You know, this is one thing I'm hearing from the sources on the ground, Pat, is that if the SDF, the Syrian Democratic Forces, this is the Kurds and other ethnic groups fighting alongside against the Turkish army, they're saying if the SDF falls, then it's likely then ISIS could be the release. There's tens of thousands of prisoners, up to 70,000 or more. They're saying if they're released, that's going to lead to a resurgence of ISIS in the region. One of these camps is just a few miles away from the Iraqi border, and we know what's happening inside Iraq right now. The Anbar province was a hotbed of ISIS years ago, and they're predicting if it happens, it could be a resurgence of ISIS. And Pat, one other thing, believe it or not, in this Free Syrian Army, or the Syrian National Army, fighting alongside the Turks, there's documented members of ISIS that are fighting there. And so it seems disingenuous when Recep Erdogan says they are fighting the war on terror.
One last question. What's this going to do with Israel? You have many contacts with the Israelis. Are they afraid of the expansion of Turkey?
Definitely, and I think they realize what Erdogan's ambitions are. You know, when this all started, he called this army the Army of Mohammed, and they said that they were coming against the unbelievers. And I think Israel is concerned about the greater ambitions of Erdogan right now. You know, he wants a greater Turkey. You can see that on some of the maps that have been released by even his defense minister. And so I think in the long term, they see Turkey certainly as an enemy. And as Senator Langford said, the Turkey of 5 years ago is not the Turkey of today. So I think Israel and people in the region, especially those people in northeast Syria, are seeing Turkey perhaps exposed the way it really is.
Chris Mitchell, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, when I was in Korea a long time ago, there was a Turkish group, and they were fighting bravely alongside the Americans. They were wonderful fighters, and they were our strong allies. And Ataturk is the one who brought the modern Turkey into being. And they said, I'm a child of Ataturk. Well, they had what were called the Young Turks. And it was remarkable what that economy had accomplished. Now we've got what looks like a Muslim dictatorship taking over Turkey and being used to ethnically cleanse the Middle East. And here we have the President of the United States having that man as an honored guest in the White House saying he's a, quote, good guy. Makes me sick at my stomach. Well, in other news, no smoking gun.